that we have include the president, of course, which is Elliot Hirschman, also the provost, the vice president for business and financial affairs, the vice president for student affairs, and the vice president for university relations and development. And then at the bottom of page 6, and then continued on to page 7 through 8, it talks about the way SDSU is organized. So if someone were to ask you what your university was, you would say SDSU, right? But if someone were to ask you what your college was, it would be pretty different. So within the university, we have 7 colleges. So since we have so many majors, we clump some of them together under the title of what's called a college. So this might be a new concept to you all, but I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use my college as an example. So they're all in alphabetical order. So I'm College of Sciences, so I would turn to page 8. And you'll see I have it highlighted right here. And then underneath College of Sciences, it says who the dean is. So it's Stanley R. Malloy. And then under that, you'll see I have highlighted the different departments that are within the College of Sciences. So some include astronomy, biology, chemistry, and then mathematics and statistics. So now we're going to go ahead and turn to page 10 and talk about some academic advising. So before I explain how academic advising works at SDSU, I want to talk about some of the responsibilities that you have as a student when it comes to academic advising. So the first one is knowing your catalog year. So this can be kind of confusing, so let me know if you don't understand and I'll explain it again. But basically, you have one catalog year for your GE requirements, so that's the year that you were admitted to SDSU. So for you all, it's 2016 through 2017, right? But for your major and minor, it's whenever you declare the major or minor. So let's say you came in undeclared, and then the next year, let's say 2018, you declared your major as being bio. So your major catalog year is 2018 through 2019. Does that all make sense? Any confusion? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So just the reason you want to know that is because sometimes requirements for certain majors can change over a year or two. So you'll want to make sure that you know your requirements for your catalog year, if that makes sense, for your major. All right. The next responsibility is using your degree evaluation. So today at orientation, you do have a printed version of your degree evaluation, and after the first day of school, you'll be able to access it online as well. And this is basically a summary of all the coursework at SDSU that you've completed, and also of the coursework that you still need to complete. So make sure you're checking up on that so you know what classes you still need to take. Also, make sure you see your advisor regularly. You want to establish like a good relationship with your advisor so that you don't have to wait until the last minute when there's a problem. Also, make sure to keep an advising file. So basically this contains like a transcript, any official documents that you might need for advising, so that when you go to see your advisor, you can just pick up the file and then go off. You also want to plan your advising sessions during non-peak times. So this basically means not going the first week of school or something, because during registration and the first few weeks of school, advisors are like really just jam-packed with students, so you want to do it during a non-peak time, so maybe the middle of the semester. And then finally, make sure that you know that you have to file for graduation. So graduation is not automatic, you do have to apply to graduate. So make sure that once you've reached those 90 units that you are projecting about when you're going to graduate. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how advising works at SDSU. So that's kind of more on page 11. So basically, SDSU does have a dual model advising system. So what this means is you have one advisor for your GE requirements, and then one advisor for your major requirements. So if you were to go to see an advisor for your GE requirements, you would go to the advising center, which you'll see right here. It's at the top of page 11, and you'll see the location, and then the hours and the days that it's open. So then if you were to go to an advisor for your major, if you needed any major advising, you would go see your major advisor. So it lists, starting right here, all of the different majors and their advisors and their hours. So I'm going to use mine as an example. You can go ahead and look yours up later, but I'm statistics. So I would go to where it says College of Sciences on page 13. And then again, it's in alphabetical order, so I'd scroll down to where it says Mathematics and Statistics. And it's located in the building called GMCS, room 413, and then it has their phone number. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, very good. And then also going back to page 11, they also have pre-professional advising. So this is if you wanted to go into like pre-dental, pre-law. If you're interested in that, you can also refer back to that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to page 14. So this is just brief. This is basically SDSU's admissions requirements, but you all have been admitted, so I don't really need to go over that. So you can go ahead and go to page 20. Okay. So page 20 talks about requirements for registration. So right here, I have it highlighted. That's the website that you will be registering at today and for the rest of your time here. So a student is considered registered when they've paid for their fees and when they've registered for at least one class. So make sure that you all have your fees paid, so tuition and all of that, because otherwise it won't let you register. So make sure that you have that taken care of before we go to the computer labs today. Some of the restrictions that the registration system have are the EPT and ELM requirements. So what this means is, depending on your EPT and your ELM score, it's going to enforce you into a certain class. So it does check for that. There's also some courses that are restricted to students in a specific major or in a specific grade level. So like if you're a freshman, sophomore, etc. But it'll tell you that. And then also, as freshmen, you all are required to fulfill what we like to call the Golden Four. So this includes composition, mathematics, oral communication, and critical thinking. So this will, again, enforce you into certain classes, either in the fall or spring. So make sure that you're building your schedule around those classes. Any questions? Everyone good? Okay. Now going on to page 21, I'm going to talk about the schedule adjustment. So basically every semester we have what's called an add-drop deadline, and by this time you need to either have, or that's when your classes are like set in stone. Thanks, Rose. Oh, thank you, Danielle. Thanks. So this semester it's September 12th. So by this time you need to make sure that you've added or dropped any classes because by September 12th it will be set in stone. There's also an instructor-initiated drop. You can just join us, Jessica.
Alright.
Yeah, just grab your backpack. Or is it on your...
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you can just come and join us. There's also an instructor-initiated drop policy. So what this means is that if you don't attend the first day of a class, the instructor does hold the right to drop you from that class. They won't necessarily do that, but if they do have the right, and they will send you an email. So just make sure you go to the first day of class. And then underneath all that on page 21, it talks about the determination of residency for tuition purposes. So I'm not going to go too into it, but just know that if you are out of state, this does apply to you. So go ahead and read up on that on your own time. Now we're going to flip to page 23. And on page 23 it talks all about fees. And you'll see right here the website for the updated fees, because just know what's listed in here is subject to change. So if you want the most updated fees, you can go ahead and go to that website. And we're on page 23.
That's it.
So if you go ahead and see where I highlighted on the first column of page 23, it lists what the cost of basic tuition and fees are. So you'll see that if you're taking 0 to 6 units, it's $2,393, and if you're taking 6.1 or more units, it is $3,542. And then, if you go ahead and flip the page, again, this is for those out-of-state students, so it just talks about the difference in tuition for those out-of-state students, so it is an additional $372, just to keep in mind. And then on the bottom of page 24, it talks about parking fees. So if you do have a student pass, it is $165 per semester. And then if you are living on campus, you will have to buy a combined student and overnight pass, and you'll see right here that it is $261. Another fee I want to talk about is at the bottom of page 24 in the second column. it's the miscellaneous instructional course charges. So I'm not going to get too into that, but if you want more information on it, there is the website there again. And just know for your own knowledge, it's mostly for like lab classes or if you take like an ENS course. And then on to page 25, real quick, it just talks about the liability for payment. So it's basically just saying it is your responsibility to clear those holds and make sure that you have paid for those. And again, I just want to emphasize that prices are subject to change. So if you want the most updated fees, go ahead and visit that Student Account Services website that I pointed out. Any questions? All good? Okay, now we're going to go to page 28, where it talks about financial aid and scholarships. So pretty appropriate because we just talked about all those fees. You might want to look into this. So everyone's heard of the FAFSA before, right? Okay, cool. So we really encourage you to fill that out to see if you qualify for any financial aid whatsoever. And actually they just changed it. You can now start applying for that in October 1st. And then underneath where it talks about the FAFSA, it's kind of cool. It gives you an estimated cost of living. So you can kind of look at it and based on your lifestyle and personality and everything, you can kind of get an estimate for what your cost of living is going to be. But again, it is estimated, so not guaranteed. And then on the second column of page 28, it talks about scholarships. And you'll see not only did I highlight the scholarships website, but I drew a little heart next to it because the scholarships website is really great. So I highly encourage you all to just be checking up on that as frequently as possible because sometimes scholarships actually go unawarded because no one even applied for them. So make sure that you are checking up on those and applying for those. Next on to page 29, it talks about student services. So all the services I'm going to talk about are within the Division of Student Affairs. So their whole purpose is to enhance student life and give you a really enriched college experience. So the first service is Career Services. I talked a little bit about it earlier in the folder, but you'll see the location and then also all of the programs they have to offer, like career counseling, internships, mentorships, all of that good stuff. Also on page 29, we do have the Center for Intercultural Relations. This is located in our student union, and their whole goal is to foster intercultural and cross-cultural learning. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to page 30. So we also have the Compact for Success and Collaborative Programs. So this is all for our students who are in the Sweetwater Union High School District. I don't know if this applies to any of you, but if it does, go ahead and read up on that on your own time. Next we have Counseling and Psychological Services. So within this service, they do have different counseling. You could actually do group counseling, couples counseling, individual counseling. There's different hotlines and workshops that you can be a part of. And best of all, there's actually a therapy dog named Baxter who's super cute. A lot of students like to visit him during finals and midterms week. Next we have EOP, or the Educational Opportunity Program. And this is geared towards those students who are first generation and historically low income to help them persist towards graduation through different programs. Next we have the Housing Administration and Residential Education. So their whole goal is to offer students a living environment that's conducive to academic and personal success. One way that they do this, you might look in your personalized folders. You might be in a learning community and you might be assigned a certain class or two based off of this learning community. So make sure today when you're registering for your classes that you do build your schedule around those classes that go with your housing. Next on to page 31, we have the International Student Center. So again, I did mention this earlier, studying abroad is required for certain students, but even if it's not required for you, you can go ahead and attend an information session here about the different international experiences that they have. Next, going on to page 32, we have new student and parent programs. So this is actually the office that I work out of as your orientation leader. So along with new student orientation, we also are responsible for new student family convocation, which is something I mentioned earlier, as well as Welcome Week, the ambassadors, that's me, the Aztec Parents Association, and Family Weekend. There's also what's called an ombudsman. This is basically the liaison between the students and the university, and they basically help those students maybe resolve any conflicts that they might be having.